What if I told you that in the middle of small-town America in 1944, a phantom prowler crept silently through neighborhoods, spraying poison into people's homes while they slept? What if I told you that ordinary families awoke paralyzed, unable to scream, their throats burning with an invisible chemical, while a tall, shadowy figure slipped away into the darkness? Or imagine this: just a few years later in Tokyo, a man in a neat suit, calm and polite, posed as a government health officer. He smiled, spoke with authority, and handed out medicine to the staff of a busy bank. Within minutes, 12 of them were dead. The killer walked away without a trace. And finally, what if one of the most sacred relics in all of Christianity, garments said to have been worn by Jesus himself, still exists today, hidden away, locked in a cathedral vault, shown only once in a generation? Tonight, we dive into three stories that blur the line between history, myth, and nightmare. This is Forbidden History, where the truth is always stranger than fiction. Starting with the part 1, The Mad Gasser of Mattoon, it begins in September 1944. The world is at war. Families in the Midwest huddle around radios at night, praying for the safe return of soldiers. But in Mattoon, Illinois, a quiet town of 15,000, terror struck from within. On September 1st, just past midnight, a woman named Aline Kearney awoke with a sharp burning sensation in her throat. Her legs were numb. Her chest was tight. Panic surged, but she couldn't scream. She couldn't even call out to her children sleeping just a room away. Her husband returned home from work only minutes later. As he stepped onto the porch, he froze. A tall, shadowy figure stood outside their window. When he shouted, the stranger bolted into the night. The smell inside the house was overpowering. Sweet, chemical, wrong. Aline's paralysis faded after several minutes, but the terror of that night never left her, and the attacks didn't stop. The very next evening, another family reported the same smell seeping through their children's bedroom window. The kids grew dizzy, their mother collapsed. Neighbors rushed to help, and again, footprints were found beneath the window. Reports spread. A farmer's wife found a damp cloth on her porch. When she lifted it to her face, her lips and throat began to burn violently. She collapsed where she stood, her children screaming. The cloth was sent for testing, but no clear poison was ever identified. The press erupted. Headlines read, "Anesthetic Prowler Strikes Again." Panic consumed the town. Families nailed their windows shut despite the brutal summer heat. Men walked the streets with shotguns, promising to defend their homes. Children were not allowed to sleep alone. Some swore they saw the gasser sprinting through alleyways. Others described cars crawling through town at night, headlights off. The police couldn't keep up. Dozens of calls came in each evening. Every strange smell, gasoline, paint, exhaust, was treated as a potential attack. At one point, the FBI was even contacted. For 3 terrifying weeks, Mattoon lived under siege. And then, silence. The attacks ended as suddenly as they had begun. So who was the mad gasser? Some believe it was nothing but mass hysteria. Wartime fear, gossip, and sensational headlines convinced people that ordinary odors were deadly chemicals. Their bodies responded with nausea and dizziness, not from poison, but from suggestion. Others insist the symptoms were too real: burns, paralysis, fainting. Could all of that be imagined? Some say it was a lone prowler, an amateur chemist experimenting with homemade anesthetics. Others whisper about foreign agents testing chemical weapons on unsuspecting Americans, with the FBI burying the truth to prevent panic. No one was ever caught. No one ever confessed. Ask people in Mattoon today, and the answers are divided. Some shrug it off. Others swear they lived through a nightmare. The truth is still lost in the fog of wartime America. Part 2. The Tagan Bank Massacre. 4 years later, across the ocean, Japan faced its own unsolved terror. It was January 26, 1948. Tokyo was a city of rubble. The war was over, but hunger and disease lingered. In this fragile society, people trusted authority without question. That afternoon, a well-dressed man entered the Teikoku Bank. He carried himself with confidence, calm, polite, professional. He introduced himself as a public health officer. He explained that there had been a dysentery outbreak nearby. For safety, he said, everyone in the bank must take medicine immediately. No one argued. He poured liquid into small cups. One by one, 16 people drank. Minutes later, they collapsed. Convulsing, gasping for air, 12 never rose again. The man quietly collected a small sum of money, walked out the front door, and disappeared into Tokyo's crowded streets. The survivors later described him as calm, kind, convincing. He looked official. He sounded official. And in post-war Japan, who would dare to question? Police launched a massive investigation. The evidence? A few poisoned vials. Soon, suspicion fell on Sadamichi Hirasawa, a struggling painter. After days of interrogation, he confessed. But his confession was riddled with contradictions. There were no fingerprints. No eyewitness clearly identified him. Yet he was sentenced to death. But here's the twist. Hirasawa was never executed. He stayed on death row for 38 years until his death at 95. Many believe even the government doubted he was guilty. So who really carried out the massacre? Some point to Unit 731, Japan's infamous wartime division that had experimented with chemical and biological weapons. Could one of its members have used that knowledge to kill? Others argue it was a master conman, vanishing into the chaos of post-war Tokyo. And some whisper about a cover-up, that powerful figures were involved and Hirasawa was framed just to close the case. What makes this crime so chilling is its simplicity. No gunfire, no violence, just a man in a suit, words of authority, and a vial of poison. And in minutes, trust itself became the weapon. The Tagan Bank massacre remains unsolved to this day. Our final story tonight reaches far deeper into history. Not a crime, but a mystery of faith. The seamless robe of Jesus. According to the Gospel of John, when Jesus was crucified, Roman soldiers divided his garments among themselves, but one piece stood apart. Unlike the others, it was woven in a single piece of cloth with no seams. Instead of tearing it apart, the soldiers cast lots, rolling dice, to decide who would take it. Legend says that robe did not vanish into dust or time, but survived. In Trier, Germany, inside a grand cathedral, a robe is kept in a gilded shrine. Believers say it is the very same garment worn by Jesus on the day of his crucifixion. Some claim it was brought there by Saint Helena, the mother of Emperor Constantine, in the 4th century. Others whisper that Charlemagne, the great king who united much of medieval Europe, received it as a holy gift. Still others say it traveled eastward, reaching Georgia and Russia, where fragments of the fabric are preserved in monasteries to this day. The robe in Trier is the most famous of them all. The earliest written record dates back to 1196, 8 centuries ago. Since then, the relic has been cared for, altered, even reinforced over time. Layers of silk, cloth, and later even rubber were added to preserve it. Ironically, those efforts made it nearly impossible for modern science to test its age. The robe itself has seen chaos. During the French Revolution, when churches were looted and treasures destroyed, the robe was cut into pieces, fragments scattered, some hidden, others lost. Yet the main relic survived, locked away in the cathedral treasury. Its last great public showing was in 2012, when thousands of pilgrims came to see it with their own eyes. But the mystery doesn't end there. Skeptics argue that the robe is almost certainly medieval, one of countless relics crafted to draw pilgrims and heir donations. Europe in the Middle Ages was filled with such treasures, countless splinters of the true cross, multiple crowns of thorns, even more than one supposed head of John the Baptist. Could all of them be genuine, or were they created to inspire the faithful and to fund the church? For believers, authenticity is not the heart of the matter. To them, the seamless robe is not just fabric. It is a symbol of Christ's suffering, his sacrifice, and ultimately his victory over death. It reminds them that faith, like the robe, is meant to be whole, seamless, unbroken. Still, the questions linger. Could a piece of clothing really survive nearly 2,000 years? Could even a single thread woven into that fabric truly have brushed the shoulders of Jesus of Nazareth? No one can answer with certainty. And maybe that is why the seamless robe endures, not as a solved mystery, but as a living question. Whether it is an authentic relic or a medieval creation, it continues to inspire, to draw pilgrims, and to remind the world of one of history's most powerful stories. The seamless robe of Jesus, perhaps the most haunting relic of Christianity. 3 stories: a phantom prowler in Illinois, a mass poisoning in Tokyo, and a robe tied to Jesus himself. Each story leaves us with questions. Was Mattoon truly haunted by hysteria or by a prowler armed with gas? Was Sadamichi Hirasawa a murderer or a scapegoat? And does the seamless robe really connect us to Christ? Or is it a legend preserved by faith alone? History is not neat. It is not clean. It is written in shadows, in whispers, in mysteries that refuse to die. And perhaps that's why we keep searching, because the truth may be stranger, darker, and far more haunting than we can ever imagine. This is Past Oracle, where forgotten history comes alive. If you want more stories buried in time, mysteries that still echo in the dark, subscribe to Past Oracle and join us on this journey into the unknown.